You will get the definition from the some judgments. You will see the from the evidence के अंदर it makes a evidence mean includes all statements. All statement में इसमें ये भी आ गया circumstantial evidence. Then it may also, you may also say that when we explain the expression proved, disproved, not proved, may all matters before the court. So in my opinion, it will come under the expression evidence mean include all statement which the court permits required to be made before it by witnesses in relation to matters of fact under inquiry, such statements. That is how. Then यहाँ पे सिर्फ define किया गया है documentary evidence which are on record, then electronic records, and such documents are called document. This is. Now circumstantial evidence, you all know that here the meaning is here the circumstances pointing indirectly towards the someone's guilt, but not conclusively proving it. That is indirect evidence. What could not be proved directly is sought to be proved indirectly, but the circumstantial evidence has to be direct. It is again is a direct evidence. Not it may be indirect. Listen, it is in the form of a, you may call it in the form of a best evidence. It cannot be called a hearsay evidence. The court draws inferences on the basis of the circumstances evidence. But when our Supreme Court of India, which was set up in the year 1950, had occasion to deal with how circumstantial evidence is acceptable, what are the yardstick that judgment I have passed on to you, if you understand that, you will come to know that. So meaning of the circumstantial, you should know that pointing indirectly towards someone's guilt. That is the meaning of circumstances. Then it may be, it's an assumption made for the sake of argument or interpretation of a practical situation, continuation taken as a group of action. It's a dictionary meaning which I called out. You may also see from your Google, it is there. Is a tentative assumption made in order to draw test for logical or empirical consequences. These are the definition. But the definition given in some of the judgment is circumstantial evidence is evidence that relates to inferences, to connect it to conclusions of fact, such as fingerprints at the scene of the crime, but also contrast. It is contrast to direct evidence. Suppose the truth or the assertion directly without need to additional evidence in force. You actually don't need additional evidence, but some cases the court may say that you are required to corroborate it in the matter. Now, when you see the judgment of the Supreme Court in the case of Govind, see, AIR 1952 Supreme Court खोल लीजिए आप, AIR 1950 Supreme Court, page number 343. Parties' name are Hanumant Govind Nargundkar versus the state of Madhya Pradesh. Can you, Ashish or Gitanshu, please open the judgment? This is a very important judgment which lays down the conditions which are required for proving circumstantial evidence. The 5 yardsticks have been laid down. That I will deal with it here. Once you understand the parameters the Supreme Court has laid down, you will come to know. Yeah. Now, this is a case. Now, this is a case in the year, came for the first time in the year 1952. The Supreme Court was set up in the year 1950. All of you know that. This is the early matter which came to the Supreme Court to explain the circumstantial evidence when certain people were convicted by the anti-corruption department of Nagpur. Now the bench, there are 3 bench judgment of Justice Mahajan, Justice Mahajan, Justice Das, and Justice Bhagwati. the three-bench judgment. I'll just briefly give the facts of the case. Now here the Mr. Hanuman Nargolkar, he was excise commissioner in Madhya Pradesh. You know, he was tried along with Mr. Chaudhary and Mr. Gadgil for the offences under section 465, that is forgery, then criminal conspiracy 120B. The main allegation was that here against them. Yes. Yeah. Mr. Nargolkar is a member of a central provinces in Nagpur. He was a deputy commissioner for several years. And he was in charge of inviting certain quotation from people for giving certain contracts for a contract for establishing a factory in Nagpur area, a distill factory. That is yes. 3 quotations were invited from one Mr. Patel, who was a technologist and chemical engineer. Then tenders were also invited. And then also who participated were a gentleman known as Idulji Dongaji and one Mr. Habibur Rahman, Zakiur Rahman. These are the 3 people who gave the tenders. Depending upon whose tender is lower, they would get the contract. Now here the prosecution case was that here Nargolkar took the sealed tenders from his office to the home, which is forbidden because an officer of the Central Excise Department cannot take the seal covers to his residence. Now, when he went, after going to the house, he has acted in collusion with Mr. Patel, one of the person who gave rates, and he showed in the rates of other tenderers. That is Idulji as well as Shafiqur Rahman. So he copied the rates, and as a result thereof, his rates were reduced, and he also fabricated certain letters in that regard. And ultimately, the contract has gone to the Mr. Patel. So complaint was lodged by Idulji Dongaji as to what happened. His quotation was supposed to be lesser. Why he did not get it? He wanted an inquiry by the Anti-Corruption Bureau. So in the inquiry, the prosecution was able to establish that here Shri Nargolkar, Excise Commissioner, who was tried along with the other accused person, were convicted for the offense of forgery and also for aiding and abetting in the matter. So that is a very serious offenses, relying upon the various evidences given directly, circumstantial evidence. Before the Sessions Court, the Revision Court set aside the charge under 465, but other charges were maintained. Before the High Court, the matter came up. The High Court did not interfere, confirm the finding of the Session Court. Here, the conviction was based solely on the circumstantial evidence. So when the matter came up before the Supreme Court, normally the Supreme Court under Article 136 in SLP does not interfere with the finding of fact unless there are serious irregularities or there's a miscarriage of justice. Now, when you see the paragraph number 8 of the judgment, the Supreme Court says that here, how the Supreme Court intervened and set aside the charges which were found on the ground of circumstantial evidence. It said that the main star witness was one Mr. Gadgil, who was the assistant of the Mr. Nargolkar. He was the assistant working to him. Now it appears that the seal cover was sent by Mr. Nargolkar at the hands of Mr. Gadgil to his residence, which Gadgil reported to have made this statement before the Anti-Corruption Bureau. Now, more or less, the anti-corruption used Mr. Gadgil more or less in the capacity as an accomplice in the case. Without taking the permission of the magistrate under section 306 or 307, what they do here, they tell Mr. Gadgil, the police department, that you are going to be one of the star witness in the matter, and you are not going to report to the office, and you will not receive your entire salary, and we will only give you salary after the completion of the trial. That means the Gadgil was under pressure to give evidence against his own boss in that regard. Now, the Supreme Court says that this particular aspect of the Gadgil being one of the suspect, and he was being made to not come to office for 8 months, and having not been paid salary, and he was paid full salary when he gave favorable evidence to the prosecution. That is how the situation is here. Now, you know that here, so you know that under the Evidence Act and CRPC will end that year, when the co-accused is, when the co-accused who is an accomplice is tendered pardon under section 306, 307 CRPC. Then under the provisions of 114B, you learned that here the courts will take the evidence of a accomplice with a pinch of salt, and it requires corroboration. But in the case of a magistrate court and the Court of Session did not record any corroboration, and believing the evidence of Gadgil to be true, and convicted Mr. Hanuman Nargolkar in the matter, which fact the Supreme Court did not approve of it. Now, the Supreme Court laid down that here, stated that here, the evidence of Nargolkar, without being corroborated in material particular, could not have been accepted. Number two, his evidence was not free from, he did not give freely. He was under pressure. If he did not give evidence properly against his own boss, and probably he will not get his salary. So as a result whereof he has given, his evidence cannot be taken seriously. Then as a result whereof, since corroboration is not done, the Supreme Court intervened in the matter. It is not a correct hypothesis. And they laid down that there is a danger here. The judgment of the trial court as well as the Court of Session is based on conjuncture and suspicion as against the commissioner, that is Hanuman Ragolkar. And the Supreme Court pointed out the good old English jargon, the one of the leading governments of Justice Baron Anderson, who has given a speech to the jury in a famous case of Reg versus Hodge. When you go on the net, you will find it. R-E-G, Reg versus Hodge, H-O-D-G, Hodge. This is report. It is a 1838 case law, where the Baron Anderson said that the mind was apt to take a pleasure in adopting circumstances to one another, and even in streaming them a little, if need be, to force them to form parts of the connected whole. And the more ingenious the mind of individual, and more likely what it is, considering such matters, to overreach and mislead itself, to supply something like link which is wanting, and to take for granted some fact consistent with the previous theories necessary to render them incomplete. So here, a warning has been issued to the judges, especially in England you have the juries, that don't jump to conclusion. Don't go by surmises and conjecture. And you require positive evidence. And when you're relying upon a circumstantial evidence, it must be conclusive And you cannot go on you cannot go on the hypothesis that it may be possible. Don't entertain doubt. There is no room for doubt. Now, in that connection, the Supreme Court laid down 5 yardsticks. When you see paragraph number 12 of the judgment, you got it, Ashish? Can you open it? Yeah, you get it. Paragraph number 12. I will read paragraph number 12 of the Supreme Court judgment, where these 5 principles are called Panchashils, they are known as. They are now standing. They have been followed by pattern of Supreme Court ruling until date this stands today. Now it says that it is well settled to remember in cases evidence of circumstantial nature. Number 1, the circumstances from which conclusion of guilt is drawn should be in the first instance be first established. So you are required to draw the conclusion of the guilt. How you draw the conclusion of the guilt? For example, a last seen witness. A was murdered, A and B were in the room. And B alone was there at home and nobody else. Then the maid comes to find out that here in the room, A was found dead. So evidence, but nobody has seen how he died. So one of the circumstances here, last seen, the person last seen with him was Mr. B. Maybe his nephew, maybe his son, maybe whoever his friend. They were living together. So you have to establish the circumstances that here, who was the last person seen, what are the circumstances with regard to the foundation of the case. So here, the circumstances from which conclusion of guilt to be drawn. So the conclusion is that save and except B, nobody else could have killed him. Okay, A was alone. At the time last seen was B, except for B, nobody else could have committed him. That is one thing. The next. Then it says that here, the first instance fully establish all facts to establish should be consistent only with the hypothesis that the guilt of the accused. So save and accept the accused. So the neighbor may take up the plea that here, yes, we saw B coming out from the residence of A. He was holding a dagger in his house. It was bloodstained. Of course, the neighbor C has not seen B committing the crime. But she has seen B coming out from his house holding a dagger, a sword, a talwar, whatever may be, and blood was oozing from it here. So that is one of the circumstances which may lead that here, say, except B, nobody else was there at the time when A was in the house at the commission of the crime. That is the second factor according to the Supreme Court. Now the third one is, again, the circumstances should be conclusive nature and pendency, that they should be such as to exclude every hypothesis. They should exclude every assumption. Hypothesis means assumption for the sake of argument. They should exclude every hypothesis, but the one proposed to be proved. So what is sought to be proved here? A is a senior citizen, 90-year-old man, unable to move about. B was his nephew. He had come to meet him. And C, the neighbor, saw B going away, running away from this scene, and he was holding a dagger in his hand, and save and except B, nobody else could have committed. Then there can be evidence of, again, Mr. D, a shopkeeper. Yes, a gentleman, aged 35-year-old, had come to my shop and he bought one dagger. He bought one suitcase. He bought certain items, weapons. So he may lead evidence. to show that, save and except this man, nobody else could have reached it. And nobody else had the key for that place. Then the fourth circumstance is, in other words, there must be a chain of events so far as complete as not to leave any reasonable ground for the conclusion consistent with the innocence of the accused. So unless you want to say that here, it says that here, there must be chain of events so far as complete as not to leave any reasonable ground for a conclusion consistent with the innocence of the accused, and must be such to show that within human probability the act must have been done by the accused. So if the accused want to take a shelter that the circumstances, the chain is not connected together. The chain is not connected to the link together. Now, one of the case which I am going to cite to you after this, that the Sharad Manju's case, in Pune murder case, the husband gave the wife cyanide poison and killed her. That is what the prosecution case is. That the marriage took place about 3 months ago. Initially, for 10 days, the marriage was good till they went to honeymoon. After 10 days, the marriage was big hell. She began reporting ill treatment to the sister, to her friends, everybody. She writing that here, my life is miserable. I am more like a servant here. And my husband doesn't have love for me. And he is having an affair with some so-and-so person. So she was very depressed. She was at the same time trying to draw the attention of the husband to win his confidence. From the letters she wrote, the trial court and the high court came to the conclusion that here, and the cyanide poison must have been given by the husband because he was the last person seen in the house. They convicted him for a death sentence. But the Supreme Court did not accept it here, holding that here, because from the fact that the girl was very depressed. She has suicidal tendencies, and it is the husband has the prosecution has failed to prove all the links and the circumstances change here. And it is possible the husband is not giving a love and affection. Doesn't mean that here that is only a suspicion. Suspicion cannot take the place of proof in the matter. So he was the four circumstances will clinch it here. Then lastly say, to show that within all human probability, the act must have been done by the accused. Then in spite of the force, these are in paragraph number 12 of the judgment, these 3-5 conditions. These 3-5 conditions, which I will once again repeat for you, which are very important in the prosecution in the cases of proving circumstantial evidence. Number 1, just pay attention and make a mental note of it. Of course, you may be able to see it here. Number 1, it is well settled to remember that the cases where the evidence, now when you take up the Sharad Manjula's case, the Justice Murtaza Fazal Ali has given this, explained this facts, 5 items in paragraph number 52. I will just read it to you from it here. He says here, the Supreme Court, the following condition must be fulfilled before a case against the accused based on circumstantial evidence can be said to be fully established. Number 1, the circumstances from which the conclusion of guilt is to be drawn should be fully established. The circumstances concerned must or should and not may be established. So what you must establish, not may presume. It is always must and should. It's a conclusive proof. They speaks of the conclusive proof, which in terms of section 4, we have said that here, only judgment in rem, the Supreme Court, the Evidence Act speaks of judgments in rem no evidence can be given to dislodge it. Or a child born after a particular period when the cohabitation doesn't take place exists here. So similarly here, you must be in a position to establish that here the all circumstances must be established positively and conclusively, and they must not be a case of may, but it is always must and should. Then number two, the facts so established should be consistent only with the hypothesis that the guilt of the accused is to say they should not be explainable on any other hypothesis except the accused is guilty. Like in the Madhya Pradesh case, it cannot be said that here the excise officer has taken the envelope to his home and shown the rates to the other person. There are no eyewitnesses. A merely inference has been drawn on the basis of the evidence of Mr. Gadgil, who is the assistant of the excise officer, accused number one, that he must have taken it. So the Supreme Court was not convinced. There are no eyewitnesses, there is no positive inferences. And Gadgil's evidence has not been corroborated. So corroboration, you learned under the Evidence Act here, both section 114 clause B says that here, there must be a corroboration. There must be corroboration as regard the evidence of the accomplice. Isn't it here? But of course, there is a different opinion expressed under 121 Walak Bate. So we read out to you that here last time that an accomplice is unworthy of credit unless he is corroborated in material particular. So the Supreme Court said Gadgil having not been corroborated, there being no independent evidence to Gadgil, so we will not take his evidence and it should be set aside in the matter. Now the third parameters for the circumvention evidence and all in fact, so on all the facts so established should be consistent only with the hypothesis of the guilt of the accused, as I mentioned to you, and no other person save and except him. It is beyond the shadow of doubt. The prosecution must prove beyond reasonable doubt, and nobody else was there at the time when the victim was at the house, save and except B. So except him, nobody else could have killed him. That is how it is. Then again, the circumstances should be of a conclusive nature. Conclusive mean here, see the conclusive evidence as discussed under section, no evidence should be dislodged. No evidence should be allowed to dislodge this hypothesis. So when the prosecution has come out with a clear case that at the time when the deceased was in the house, his nephew normally comes to meet him at the time every day. So he comes 8 p.m. and the death was reported between 8 and 8:30 p.m. when the neighbor and the servant came to know, or the doctor came to know, they wanted to see that there was a dead body found. So the last person who went was a nephew here. So the prosecution must lead evidence come to the conclusion nobody else could have killed him except the accused person. Then the tendency, and they should be such as to exclude every hypothesis, but the one proposed to be established, proposed to be proved against the accused in the matter. Then must be lastly, there must be a chain of evidence so as to complete and not to leave any reasonable ground for the conclusion consistent with the innocence of the accused. So in case the accused person want to take up the alibi, plea that I was not in Mumbai at the time of the commission of the offense. I was elsewhere. I was in maybe Pune. I was at Kalyan. My ticket can be seen. I was attending a function. You may see the photograph. That is what the defense has to take. So it is possible. It is both the prosecution can take up this plea and bring circumstantial evidence, and also the accused can bring it here. Then it further said that it must be such as to show that within all human probability, all must have been done by the accused and no other person. So circumstances must throw only against you, nobody else in the matter here. So the Supreme Court acquitted all the accused person in the case, Nargolkar's case, who was convicted by the trial court as well as the high court. Has been the magistrate court session, the magistrate court, session judge, and high court. Three judgments were set aside by the Supreme Court. It's a leading judgment. Please go through the ratio laid down by Justice Mahajan in this judgment. The Govind's case is followed till date. That is also have been discussed in Sharad versus State of Maharashtra, which we will discuss here later on. And before that, the two foreign judgments which I given you, that is Baron Anderson's case. Oh, sorry, not that case.
So, if a person is convicted just based on circumstantial evidence, and then later on, a different lawyer can find a discrepancy, can we order for a retrial based on that?
Retrial is not possible in such matters. You have to go file an appeal. Suppose if the session court has convicted him, and you have to go to the high court and explain. Now, in the case of Sharad's case, that is Sharad versus State of Maharashtra, Manjula's case, that is AIR 1984 Supreme Court, page number 1622. Murtaza Fazal Ali versus Vadarajan and Sebastian Mukherjee judgment. It's a very interesting judgment. It begins with the wording that here, Justice Fazal Ali wrote here, it says, this is rather an unfortunate case where a marriage arranged and brought about through the intervention of the common friend and families and bridegroom made a good start, but rather than rough water in the matter. Then Manju is the wife and Sharad is the husband. The Sessions Court as well as the Bombay High Court believed that nobody else except the husband could have committed murder because he was the last seen person. There are letters which she wrote to her husband, which she wrote to her father, sister, and friend that I am being ill-treated. My life is that of a servant here. And then there are many letters, there are 3-4 letters, which according to me, that both the trial court and high court have not carefully gone through that. Because the Supreme Court has very carefully gone through the letters, and each and every letter meaning I'll point out to you in the judgment, how beautifully it is scripted letter. Because the evidence of the father of the girl who died, the evidence of the sister of the girl and friends, they are all interested witnesses. What? It may be fact is an unfortunate death, but they being interested witnesses, they have tendency to exaggerate. Isn't it? If your friend has been, if your friend you like to support in the court of law on the ground that here her death was committed by the husband, naturally you are angry. You are angry with the husband. You like to depose against the husband. And you may like to exaggerate certain things in the matter. That is why the Supreme Court says, now the evidence which can, when the woman writes, married woman writes letters to her parents, to her friends and sister and sibling, that statements come within the meaning of Section 32 of the Evidence Act. Just open your Section 32. It comes both dying declaration as well as circumstances relating to the transaction about death. See, Section 32 Section 32, of course, it's a hearsay. When hearsay becomes a positive evidence, is given under Section 32, that is what the subject matter of dispute before the Supreme Court in Sharad versus Manjula. I will read through you the letters which are given. Just understand the section first. That she was. Now here, the facts of the case is that husband and wife are married. She is from Beat. The wife is from the Beat. Husband from the Pune. 3 or 4 weeks of marriage. The marriage went in rough waters. She was not happy. she discovered in fact, the husband introduced to her his own girlfriend. He told her that I am in love with her. If you want to be happy with me in matrimonial home, you have to listen to her orders. The girl's name, the girlfriend, more or less, she is the mistress of the house, whereas you are like the servant. That made her very uncomfortable. Naturally, any woman would not tolerate there being another woman in the husband's life, isn't it? So these things, she began writing to her brother and her sister, her friends, that I am not happy in the marriage. She having come from a orthodox family background, you don't reveal everything. She told her sister, what of my unhappiness, please don't tell parents, and my husband is having an affair and he is ill-treating me, I am like a husband. So ultimately one fine day she committed suicide. She was found dead. They found dead. The husband himself reports to the police. It's very interesting. See, the husband reports to the police, she is no more. The husband himself lodges a FIR. Then husband is supposed to be a chemical engineer who knows about potassium cyanide. It is a chemical drug. So the trial court, the Pune Sessions Court, as well as the Bombay High Court, went on the footing that year. He being an engineer himself who knows about the chemical, he has given her, and relations were very strained very badly. Of course, there is no direct proof of any witnesses having seen the death. But the fact that she wrote several letters to her sister, to her parents, to her friend, will confirm the fact that these are statements which can come as evidence within the meaning of Section 32 of the Evidence Act, such as a dying declaration or circumstances relating to dying declaration. Dying declaration is normally immediately made. When you're in a hospital, you tell the doctor, "Arey, aapne accident hua, kaise ho gaya?" A man makes a statement, somebody came and knocked me down, some lorry, some bus, somebody pushed me, then the person dies, then the doctor and nurse recording it, that's a dying declaration. But the evidence of a person, which are circumstances leading to death, need not be spontaneous or immediately. They can be previously made, they can be subsequently made. For example, the husband might tell that I am going tonight for dinner to meet Mr. X, with whom I am having a property dispute. The plaintiff and defendant are fighting a case in the civil court for property dispute. Then the defendant invites the plaintiff, let us solve the matter amicably, come over for dinner. So they may be two villages, remote villages in Indian cities. So the husband tells, I am going to the village of the defendant, who also, to settle the matter, he has called me for dinner. So then the night passes off, then morning passes, he doesn't come back. Then his dead body was found. Nobody has seen how he is dead. So the statement of the wife that here, my husband told me that he is going to the residence of his friend or the defendant who in the civil cases for sorting out civil issues to solve the problem. So he never returned back. So that is, here you employ a motive. The motive behind killing was that solving a property dispute. So here the defendant, the person who invited him for dinner, is the culprit who has killed him and nobody else. That is how. Now in the Sharat's case, no sooner she was found dead with poison, with the potassium cyanide. Husband is a very smart man. Of course, he had no love for the wife, but he goes to the police station and informs, my wife is dead. Then he also informs the doctor first. The doctors advise him that it's an unnatural death and we must do the post-mortem. He cooperated. He did not show any signs and nothing else. He cooperated fully. Then it was discovered that she died because of potassium cyanide. The husband said she has committed suicide. The police prosecution said that here it is cannot be a suicide because it is a homicide. In the wake of the fact that here the girl was very unhappy in the house. Several letters written to father, sister, and brother, clinching evidence to show that here, save and accept the husband, and plus he has his own girlfriend and he neglected her. And we wanted to get rid of her, he killed her. So the High Court and the Sessions Court and High Court believed the theory and convicted him. He is to be hanged करके order दिया था. Then the matter was taken to Supreme Court. Senior advocate Mr. Ram Jetmalani appeared for the gentleman, Sharad, the appellant, the husband, where the letters which were written, the Supreme Court found that here this girl was under depression. The High Court has not taken notice of the various letters. I am not going through. You go through them. I will read the report of the expert. The Supreme Court has given. See, at paragraph number 25C in Sharad versus Manjula's case, how the Supreme Court came to the conclusion that the finding recorded by the Session Court and High Court with regard to circumstantial evidence death is wrong. Let's see that here. I am reading paragraph number 25 of the judgment of Sharad's case. Can you open this, Ashish? Yeah, have you opened it? Hello?
Yes, sir. Gitanshu has opened it. Sir.
Yeah, Gitanshu opened
sir.
it.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you see paragraph number 26, very important. 25 से आ जाइए, 25 से. To how to gather the circumstance. She has hinted that she was passing through a difficult time, but was trying to control herself as much as she could. She has further indicated that if things did not improve, she may have to evolve some other method. The exact word used in Roman script thus, जब तक संभाल सकती हूँ ठीक है, जब असंभव हो जाए तो फिर रास्ता निकलना पड़ेगा, देखेंगे क्या क्या होता है. So this is what the girl wrote, Anju wrote it here. Then paragraph number 26, the word some other way will have to be evolved clearly gives a clue to the psychotic state of mind and seems to suggest that the other method to get rid of all other troubles was to commit suicide. This is what the Supreme Court says that. It is pertinent to note that in the first two paragraphs of a letter extracted above, there is no indication nor hint about the conduct of the husband. Now, in paragraph number 27, in the third letter, she states the feeling thus: I thought much that since the house of my husband parent is at Pune, I would do this, and that the people from the house of husband parents are free. However, I have gradually come to know that in that house, the work of a daughter-in-law is no more than that of a laborer. So this is what she wrote it and sent to her friends and brothers. Then about the commission of committing, last letter, paragraph number 35 check karo aap. This is the last letter which she wrote where she indicated that she is going to end her life. She was naturally apprehending something and was not very hopeful of going to her father's place. This being her last letter, that too short one. देखो हिंदी में जरा ऊपर लिखा गया इसके अंदर. हिंदी में after before 35 just read मेरा तो it says that मेरा तो आने का क्या होता है देखना है. Can you read somebody who's very good in Hindi? बाबूजी का यहाँ से खत और आया तो शायद चांस मिल सकता है, मगर मेरे मंगल की दुल्हन की रूप में देखने की बहुत इच्छा है, देखूंगी. This is what here. Then you see that here she was naturally apprehending something and was not very hopeful of going to her father's place. That being at the last letter, and that too short one, it gives a clear inkling of the manner of how her mind was working. She did not lay any blame on the husband or anybody else, but still she was afraid that something was going to happen and she may not be able to go to her father and see the marriage of her sister-in-law, for which preparations were being made. In our opinion, these words are extremely prophetic and seems to be indicate that the time she had almost made up her mind to end her life instead of carrying on her miserable existence. As brevity is the sole wit and directly hinted that she may not be able to meet her father or anybody naturally, because when life comes to an end, there can be no such existence. Exhibit 32, through her short letter, depicts the real feeling and paragraph tentatively, decision to which she may have already taken, but did not want to disclose for reason. So this letter, unfortunately, skipped the attention of the Sessions Court and the High Court. The High Court and the Session Court and the High Court, which were the courts of the courts of final facts of appeal, appreciation, they should have seen this letter. This letter speaks of her state of mind. She did not want to leave. She was so miserable. She wanted to continue. But on the contrary, instead of reading this letter, the session judge and the Honorable High Court were of the opinion that they drew some wrong presumption that it is the husband alone she has committed suicide, committed the murder, and it is not a suicide case. Then the Supreme Court is relying upon the report of a psychiatric. See paragraph number 40, check karo aap. Paragraph number 40 check karenge. Last two lines. In order to buttress our opinion, now what the Supreme Court said that, now we would like to cite some passages of eminent psychiatric Robert K. Casterbaum, where in his book Death, Society and Human Experience, he analyzed the causes, the circumstances, the moods and emotion which may drive a person to commit suicide. The learned author has written that person who is psychotic nature and suffers from depression and frustration is more prone to commit suicide than any other person. In support of our view, we extract certain passages from the book. So the Supreme Court is taking a lot of trouble in this matter to find out what the real truth is, whether the circumstantial evidence as gathered by the High Court and Court of Session is correct. Now it says that if we are concerned with the probability of suicide in every large population, then mental and emotional disorder is a relevant variable to cherish. This is one. I am skipping the other one. I am coming to the last paragraph. The victim of suicide may also be the victim of self-expectation and have not been fulfilled. I mean, the expectation of this girl, Manju, was that my husband should love me. And I should be treated not like a slave. I should be treated like a daughter-in-law of the house, which unfortunately these expectations were not fulfilled. So she had become a psychotic case. So she was under deep depression and frustration. As a result, the Supreme Court said, Manju has, then paragraph number 43, the Supreme Court said that, hopelessness, despair, lousy and miserable, draw the condition. So they drew the conclusion that it is a case of a suicide and not a homicide. Paragraph number 44, they have given other causes. Then as regard
सर
हाँ जी या बोलिए
सॉरी सर, लेकिन सर यहाँ पर अबेटमेंट तो सुसाइड का कुछ चार्ज नहीं लगा for the husband?
Yes, there was a
Like
charge.
because especially there was a charge that was at least
There was a
brought to
charge.
the
There was a
police.
charge against the husband. 302.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, yeah. You read that, yeah. The charge was as that is the allegation against the husband. Suicide का 306 का overrule हुआ. Yeah, he took up the plea here. So
Sir, sorry,
the prosecution filed a charge sheet under 302. Okay, that it was a homicide. The husband has committed the murder, and the session court believed it, and the session court granted him the highest punishment, and the High Court Bombay also confirmed it on the basis of only circumstantial evidence which were wrongly assumed by the Session Court and High Court, which the Supreme Court has clarified how circumstances must be appreciated. So that man was convicted by the Sessions Court and the High Court under 302 only on superficial assumption. Assumption which are not, the hypothesis does not lead to the conclusion that he alone was the committed. But her own letters were written to her parents were not carefully read by the courts below. Okay?
sir. Sir, Ava here, sir. I wanted to ask, can we add to also the abetment of suicide to also cruelty? Could that be a form that we can add it?
Yes, why not? 498A comes now. 498A IPC normally come because she committed suicide and she was killed on account of cruelty. That is normally the charges are there. So
No,
under the Indian law, a woman before 7 years of marriage, if she commits suicide or cruelty is inflicted, the presumption goes against the husband. The court shall draw a presumption under the Evidence Act. It is the in-laws and the husband who has tortured her 7 years.
Because sir, one teacher had told me, associate had told me that cruelty will only apply to divorces or like marriage, when you want to end a marriage. But wouldn't this also apply? That's why I asked it on that basis.
No, not correct. It applies here also. It's a serious criminal offense punishable for 7 years. On account of cruelty, the woman is committing suicide. Isn't it? The both can charge of cruelty as well as 306 abetment can be proved. It is not correct proposition that 498A only applies to divorce cases. I'm sorry. It is not so.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
So the Supreme Court has said that 498A is being misused rampantly.
It misused, but there are some genuine cases also at the same time.
So how do you balance it, sir?
Yeah, that balance is from the evidence. It is the job of a trial court judge how to sift the evidence, remove the chaff from the grain, isn't it? Isn't it? Remove
here in this case, sir, we are seeing
careful examination of the evidence. That is why how the evidence is conducted, what kind of evidence is laid before the trial court is very, very important. That is why Evidence Act knowledge is very important. Many of the trial court judges and many of them, with due respect, they don't pay attention to Evidence Act. See, the reason I am taking you through the Evidence Act with full stop, paragraph, illustration, comma, it has to ingrain in you. So, this is very important. This is very important.
So if you look at this case, sir, यहाँ पे भी the Sessions Court and the High Court gave wrong judgments. So that means if somebody doesn't have the capacity to go all the way to the Supreme Court, they'll end up.
I will tell you. See, every human being has a different notion. You know that? See, in a criminal matter, especially when drawing presumption, I may draw A presumption, you may draw B presumption. A third person will draw another presumption. It is ultimately who draws the best presumption. The matter had it been one more appeal against the Supreme Court, somebody else, if it's a curative petition, there may be a different presumption, isn't it? But now, as a student of law, or young lawyer, you will come to know who has drawn the best presumption. You read Manjula's judgment. It's a very beautiful judgment, running
Yes,
into
sir.
more than 100, 200 pages judgment. 100 pages
So
judgment.
when we are going through these huge judgments, what is the best way so that we can get to the gist of the matter?
According to me, read the entire judgment, and I am giving you the gist. No, I am giving you the gist at the moment. I am not reading the entire judgment. I am pointing out to you the relevant section relating to circumstantial evidence.
Yes, sir.
Because
Yes, sir.
I have read the entire judgment, but I do not want to take you through the entire judgment. It will become 6 to 7 hours. Ho jayega. I am pointing out the relevant paragraph, relevant material, which is necessary for this lecture and how to draw the presumption. So you
Yes,
are
sir.
getting it. So the session court and the high court were under the impression that year, because the woman she wrote letters to her brother, she wrote letters to her sister, friends, and parents, that I am not happy in this house. I am being treated like a servant. These are the wording she has used. And she was found dead next day. Naturally, fingers will go against the in-laws and the husband, isn't it? Naturally, it will go. But if you carefully go through, it can be either a case of suicide or it can be homicide. Now, in this case, the girl wrote 3 letters to her sister as well as her father and one of her friend, placing in the final letter, I will take any further step, extreme step, which was not discussed by the trial court and the high court. The Supreme Court has examined this very carefully, and also taken the opinion of an expert, who has given a finding as to how the suicide takes place. I just read you the opinion of the expert. What is the expert name? I just read out to you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Can we end our first session?
Yeah, we end it here. We'll take a 5 minutes break and come back. Okay? I will discuss. So read and come for 5 minutes.
Okay, sir. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.